Coaches, if you have ever thought about implementing some sort of mental training or mindset training into your program or into your team, but you're like, how the heck do I actually do this? Because practice is limited as it is, and I've got so much else going on. I don't want to sacrifice reps for mental training. First of all, I hear you. Second, that's why I'm so excited for this episode because I got to sit down with 3 high school coaches who are actively implementing mental training with their teams without spending a lot of time and seeing phenomenal results in how their team is able to respond to mistakes, setbacks, get off of this roller coaster of like what team is going to show up tonight. And because these coaches are in the thick of it, they're giving real strategies and real life tips on how to actually do this without spending hours and hours or sacrificing reps for the mental game. Now, if I haven't met you, I'm Coach Bre. I am a mental performance coach and a 14-year head volleyball coach. And I too do mental training in my program because I know that I need athletes that can bounce back quickly from mistakes. And I don't want to spend time coaching the emotional side of the game. I have lost many games before I started implementing mental training in these situations where we were losing to mental errors. So I knew I had to make a change, started doing some simple mental training skills, and it really made a difference. My athletes are able to perform when it matters. We're able to actually come in clutch in those moments where it can easily go the other way. So it really does make a big difference. But if you want to know exactly how to do it, then I'm going to let you listen to these coaches explain it. Now, these coaches are talking about our program, which is called Plug and Play Elite Mental Game for Teams. This makes it really easy for you to do mental training without needing to have a sports psychology degree or a whole lot of time. You literally just get your team together and press play on the short videos. They learn the skills. They talk about it in a little team discussion that doubles as some team bonding, and then they go off and implement their skills in practice and in competitions. It's what I do. It's what these 3 coaches do. And if you want to learn more about that, head to our free training. It's at coachfreetraining.com. You can learn some simple skills, but also learn about plug and play and get a discount on the program. So that's what these coaches are also referring to, but you will love their stories and also just how real it is. This isn't just like theory or here's how you could do it. These coaches are all from different sports. They're all high school level, but you really get a glimpse into how you can bake this into your practice structure and what you're already doing. So enjoy. I hope you love this episode as much as I love sitting down with these passionate coaches who are implementing mental game strategies with their teams. All right. Hello, coaches. Welcome to our coach to coach panel. I'm super excited for this because we have 3 wonderful coaches here who are going to be sharing a little bit of a behind the scenes look at real life. Like what does it actually look like to do some mental training with their team? Specifically, these coaches have used our program Plug and Play Elite Mental Game for Teams, and how do you do it? So we're going to get right into it, and I'll have each of you introduce yourselves, what sport you coach or sports if you coach multiple, and then we'll get more into the nuts and bolts of like how this all went down for you. So Tom, you're first on my screen. Will you introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Coach Tom DeMeo. I coach women's lacrosse high school at St. Mary's Annapolis here in Maryland, which is an extremely competitive area. As everyone knows, Maryland lacrosse and Long Island lacrosse are 2 of the hotbeds. So we play an extremely competitive conference, and I've been coaching for a really long time on the boys game. Was involved in that for 20 years, and then I switched over to the girls game a few years back. And it's been, one thing I have learned is there's a lot more mental training that we had to apply, and that's what turned me onto your program, and looking forward to expanding on it.
Yeah, cool. And Tom and I just had a podcast interview, and like part 1 of it posted recently. So if Tom looks or sounds familiar, that's probably why. All right, Carlton, how about you?
I'm a high school girls coach in Oneonta, New York, which is upstate New York. And in the off season, we run different leagues and also coach an AAU travel team. So I got interested in this, looking at different programs that were out there for mental performance training, realizing that was another part of the coaching aspect that I really hadn't hit on before. How to train the athletes to recover from their mistakes, how to be confident, and how to do that consistently. And that was one of the big problems. and looking at different programs. I really liked your program. I'd seen something more catered towards the girls side of sports and girls athletes, which is what I coach. But I think it's applicable to everybody.
Yeah.
So that's how I got involved in this. Just looking for that other aspect. Now one of our themes of the team is train your mental performance as much as you train your physical performance. So we really try to put a lot of stress on that as well.
Yeah, very cool. And you coach basketball. What I love is that you don't just say it. Like you sent me a one pager, and a lot of times, like this goes with culture too. We say things like your mental game is just as important, and family and value, like all of that we do as coaches, put it on the back of our shirts, but like you actually backed it up with being able to give them skills to do that. So
right, and I did that because in coaching you try not to be reactionary, like don't turn the ball over next time. It's not really helpful. They know they shouldn't turn the ball over next time. But you try to teach them how not to turn the ball over. So I got to the point where I thought like, hey, just shake it off. Don't worry about it. That's not enough. That's kind of be reactionary to how they're feeling. You have to be proactive, and that's so your program really helped me learn how to do that.
Very cool. Awesome. We got Carrie. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you sound good.
Hello everybody. I'm Carrie Francis. I'm a head volleyball high school coach for Minot North High School. A fairly unique experience I've had because we brand new school opened last year. So we had our first varsity season, and I knew watching the girls and building them and getting ready for it, mental training was the next huge hurdle that we needed to accomplish. And we're not fully accomplished yet, but with the help of the mental performance training that we started last year and going to continue to utilize and build, I know that we saw some great improvements in our mental capabilities of handling a lot of mistakes because we were a brand new varsity team. 20 years into this, I'm a teacher and a coach, and I knew what was coming, but they didn't know what was coming. So it was really a way to kind of start handling some of those mistakes on the big kind of stage. And we had started things before, but this was just really a way to kind of keep me more focused and organized as a coach, because sometimes I spend too much time looking for things. So that's kind of what brought me to this, because I knew this was going to be a huge corner piece of our training to get us ready for the next level. And it works at every level for the coaches that are wondering. But I do want to say it seems really applicable to our girls at the high school level.
Yeah. Okay, great. And Carrie has tryouts on Monday, right? So
this coming Monday. We're not there yet. I'm on my last vacation, so.
Oh yeah, I like literally just got back from my last vacation last night, and so next week is like my prep week, and then we hit the ground running. But I'm working hard to get you some of the updates that I'm making to my tryout plan.
Okay,
send over to you too. So, cool. All right. Well, coaches that are on and listening, you feel free to drop any questions that you have as we go into the chat. If you're curious, if you just want to hear like overall, like how did each of you do this, or if you have a specific question for a specific coach, just drop that in the chat because we will be grabbing those as well. Okay, kicking things off. All of you kind of shared a little bit, but what were you looking for? What problem were you trying to solve? Like, take us back to like as a coach with your team. What made you even want to consider plug and play or start mental training with your team in the first place? So, Tom, I'll start with you.
Yeah. So, I think I've heard you say it in your podcast before. So that, you can have this team that, practice is great, plays great in practice or leading up to a game. You just don't know who's going to show up. And then, so I started to see that a lot more on the girls' side of the game, is that, you'd have as much talent as another team, maybe more talented. And for some reason, you'd blow a 5-goal lead or you'd come back from 5 goals. It was very up and down. So I started to really do some research into the mental side of the game. Not that I hadn't done that on the boys' end before, but I had noticed both the boys and the girls' side, everyone was doing this at college, really training the mind, because the stakes are higher. And so when I got into the conference that is, one of the best in the country, I realized it wasn't just going to be about skill training. And all the things that I was really good at is, X's and O's, skill training, trying to really get the most out of my players, which I felt I always did. But I started to feel like maybe I wasn't. And so I started to really get into the girls side. I do have 4 girls myself as a dad.
Yeah.
So I already had a little experience in dealing with it, but it really turned me on to your program. And then when the volleyball coach came to me and said, "Hey, I got this program I'm really looking at," I was like, "This is great. We want to
Yeah.
do this. I don't know if I have the time during my season to do it." And so we took the next steps. I promised I'd give it a run, and we gave it a run. It was great. And so I
Cool.
look forward to sharing more about how it worked for us.
Yeah, for sure. We'll leave it at that, the little cliffhanger. But I was kind of in the same boat as you, Tom, when I first started like going down this path. It was like, I feel like I have such a talented team, and I'm coaching in a really like, an area that has a history, a record of success. And like, I feel like I'm the one actually not giving them the skills that they need to be able to perform. So yeah, there's definitely a camp of coaches that are in that boat too. Okay, Carlton, how about you?
Yeah, it was like looking at just the confidence and overcoming their mistakes. So what I added to that was confidence and overcoming what they perceive to be mistakes.
Yeah.
Because it may not be a mistake; it's just part of the game. So if they get themselves down on every turnover, every missed shot, every time they give up a basket, they're never going to be effective players. So looking at their confidence and how to get their confidence back, and some things are just part of the game. It's not a problem. It's not something they did wrong. And that coupled with your bounce back in the snap routine has really helped us improve quite a bit. And it is different between the boys side and the girls side. And one thing I heard recently, and I believe this is for boys, they have to win to be confident and happy. Girls have to be confident and happy to win.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a different approach between coaching girls and boys. I think with girls, you need to be much more proactive with their mindset going into practice and going into a game.
Yeah, that's so important. I know we've all had these teams and these athletes who were like, you have so much potential. Like, it's actually not your talent. Like, we're training the skills really well, and you've got it, but it's your confidence in yourself and your self-talk. And like, if you were just to believe in yourself more, like it would be a different game. So yeah, I hear you there. Okay, Carrie, take us back.
Okay, so when I was trying to kind of game plan for next year, I don't have a lot of time, and I needed something that was ready to go. I know that you had some conference calls, like kind of asking what we would need as coaches, and I need it broken up. I need it simple, easy to use. I am teaching a full day every day with I'm a biomedical science teacher with high level labs, and I'm also as dedicated in the classroom as I am to my other classroom, which is the gym. And I need something that's ready to go. And I just found that your program was laid out how I needed it. Like, I needed it in the classroom. Like, this is how you do it. You go from one to the other. Here's the questions. Here's some ideas. You had a lot of kind of questions you can ask even within your program to try to tailor it, but it comes ready to go. And my fear was the first time I kind of saw it, it was like, oh my God, what is it going to cost? And then I saw the cost and I was like, okay, I think I can do all this because it's saving me so much time to find the good resources that I need. You've already got them right in front of you. And it's literally the plug and play aspect, because sometimes I need to be worried about their mental training, and can be put on the back burner because you're so skill focused, especially like, okay, do they have the skills? But like Carlton had mentioned, like, you need to build those connections within the girls, but you also have to give them the tools to find ways to come back to each other, but they have to come back to themselves first. And I just really loved the ease of it and the way I can tweak and tailor things to fit my team. And you just had it all laid out. And I just saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, she's speaking my language. So I was just so appreciative of that and the ease of it and the formats you bring us. It was really, really nice, usable chunks, which was great.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. Former teacher there too. So it's
Yep.
like, you can't have, you have all of your preps for the actual content that you're teaching as a teacher.
Mhm.
And then you've got to plan for volleyball. And then it's like the mental training is like another prep. You don't have the time.
Mhm.
So I am in the same boat too. I'm like, I just need something that's already like there for me. So
Yes.
yeah.
And that's what I think separates your program from a lot of other ones is
Mhm.
how it's broken down, the ease of it, and just it's ready to go to use.
Mhm. Yeah, very cool. Okay, let's go to take me through how did your athletes respond to it? There's some big questions I'm going to answer for coaches because this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing questions around like, how do you even introduce this? Which that's baked into plug and play as well. But some coaches are afraid that they're like, this is new. I don't know if they're even going to like take to it. And then we'll kind of go to what results did you see? What were they actually like doing that was making a difference? And then we'll get into the nuts and bolts because I know we have my teacher planner, coach planners who are like, lay it all out for me. So let's start first though with like how did you introduce this to your team and how did they respond? Tom, we'll go back to you.
Yeah. So, I knew I wanted to do this before the season, and we talked about it as a team after our tryout process, during our, off-season workouts. But I didn't really feel like I was going to institute it full until we got into more of a high stakes environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost felt like we had to fail first. And, we had girls who not everyone plays, right? And that's part of
Yeah.
this process too, is, having a full holistic experience, whether you're playing or not, is being involved in the team. And this is something that, we waited till we had some failures. We knew we had a tough schedule coming up. So we decided to implement it leading up to that. And
Yeah.
that's why I thought it was most effective for us as rolling it out the first time. And I think, as I stated before, the girls are really receptive to it because they had just experienced some failure, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what are we going to do? Hey, we've been training. Awesome. We've been doing this now off season, in season. We feel like we train harder and better and we're faster. We've improved. Why aren't we seeing this on the field? And it's like, okay, let's try this. And, this is what we've been talking about. So I think they're really receptive to it. It's classroom environments a little different than the field. And so, I think timing wise, that's how we rolled it out. Not that everyone has to do that, but
Yeah.
I do believe, we sort of shortened the program and scratched the surface. But for us in the first time using it, I think that was the best scenario for us doing it. So, but it was receptive and one day we just rolled it out. We called it Mental Mondays. And we just on a Monday leading into a big week, we sat the girls down, in our film room and we watched your video. We talked about it. We gave them some homework assignments and the following Monday we built on that. So
Yeah.
like you said, I think like Carrie said, it's really easy to implement and, the plug and play was a good term for it.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. And that's awesome that you also know, your team, your girls, right? Because if things are going well and you're just dominating and sometimes they're, athletes, especially that age, only see like this far in front of them. And Carrie said this, she's like, I know what's coming. You guys don't know what's coming. And so you're like, we know we're going to need this, but, kind of holding out until we experience some failure. That's a great way to introduce it also. I love that. By the way, those coaches that are on right now, go ahead and drop in the chat. Where are you from? What sport are you coaching right now? Where are you at in your season? We have what's pretty cool. We have a fall sport coach. We've got a winter sport coach. We've got a spring sport coach. So we've got all three in here. But if you're here watching, drop where you're coming from and what sport you coach. All right, Carlton, how did your girls take to it? And when did you start it? Because I think you did it in the off season.
Yeah, I didn't get it until the spring. So our winter season was over. So I was watching some of the videos and really concentrating on that, bounce back in the snap, the first few videos, and kind of think about how I was going to implement it in the season. And I had a girl that didn't play in the spring because of confidence. Her friends played. She just didn't continue playing. So, I talked to the parents end of spring as we're getting ready for summer league, and I asked if she was playing. They said it's more of a confidence thing, but I think she wants to. And I said, well, if she does, I'll do what I can to help her out. And I was thinking of this program when I said that. So we started the summer season, and so for a couple practices, I started talking more about, mental performance, mental preparation, and kind of going over some of the things that were in the videos, particularly, how to the physical, bounce back
Yeah.
from a mistake. So then we had a lesson. It was her and two other girls who were friends. So that's the first time we watched the videos, and they really got interested in it. They're the breathing, they're holding their abdomen, just like the video says, and telling me what their recovery word is going to be, what their bounce back, signal is going to be. And I said, well, and the lesson was right before the practice, the picture that I was trying to show you. And I said, well, do you think the rest of the team would benefit from this? I said, yeah, definitely. Everyone needs to see this. So then we did it at the practice as well. And then we've done it at different lessons and different practices. So the one girl who didn't play because of confidence, she's seen the videos 4 times now.
Oh my gosh.
She said she's ready to teach them herself. And,
Okay,
but
great.
she's the one that really needed it. But that's a good sign because she's coming to all the practices and all the lessons that I showed the videos. I've showed them 4 times, and she's been there all 4 times. So that's a really good sign that she's that interested and that confidence in what she's doing. So I think during the season, we don't have the first time slot after school. We have the second time slot. So most of the team or all the team for that first time slot, they'll sit around and do their homework or do whatever they do, just kind of hang out. So I'm going to just get them together probably about 20 minutes before practice starts in the hour and a half free time they have and start doing the videos and using that time more for not only mental practice, but also practice and game prep as well.
Oh, that's
So
great.
it won't cut into our practice time. I'm kind of fortunate to have that time and all rather than going home, all the kids just stay in school for that hour and a half anyway.
Yeah. That's a great way to utilize that time. We're in this, we have the same situation. Our school gets out now on Mondays at 1:10 and we don't practice until 4. And so like, that's a lot of time to do a lot of things that they're probably not supposed to do. So I'm like, we're going to like direct some of that time also. That's such a good story though, of this, one of your players, just even that she shared with you, or her parents shared that it's about confidence. As a coach, you're like, what do I do? How do I help? So I love that was ready to go for her.
Yeah, and she's she's more confident in her play every week, and she's modified. So we asked her to play up on JV for a week, and she did. She jumped at the chance to do that. Trying out for JV soccer right now, which she probably wouldn't have done before. So she's really a successful story for this. And not just her parents. The more I mention, I'll send out a group chat about things that we did. I mentioned the videos and mental preparation. I was surprised how many parents have approached me with what they're struggling with their children with at home. And so sometimes we kind of get into, okay, you're doing this, I'm doing this. Let's just touch base every now and then and see how we're doing and how we need to adjust this. So it's really helped in that respect as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And when you share this with your parents, so we have in Plug and Play, we have like an email with some resources to blast out to your parents to tell them about what you're doing and resources for them. Like it's a real value add to your program because parents are wanting this for their kids and they don't know. So a lot of times they're lost on how to help too. So yeah, it's really great. Okay, Carrie, it looks like you have somebody in the chat.
If I do actually. I used to live in Minnesota. Now I live in North Dakota. And Bill is a teacher, colleague, coach that was there at my very first school when I very first started head coaching. And he saw me at my probably my most rough, like no mental training. It was figure it out or you're out.
Yeah.
That doesn't work, guys. Just gonna tell you that. But it was, so small world.
I heard once if you're not like a little embarrassed of your first year coaching, then you're not doing it because you haven't grown. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. Just want to keep that real. So some of it with my girls is that we have started our program from the 9th grade moving forward, and we were the new school. So we were the brand new school, 50 years. It's been the same structure, and it was a huge change. So my girls were putting themselves out there, not by choice. On top of it, we were splitting a fairly large town into 2, and now not competing with upperclassmen to like look up to and see. And I knew we were setting the standard for that. And one of the pieces that kind of makes, I think, my situation a little unique is I'm taking, one of my athletes home with me every night.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
struggles and the changes that happen.
Mhm.
And I'm a head coach's kid too. So we're like third generation here in our house. But kind of the things that I saw her dealing with and trying to separate themselves, the person from the athlete, and that their value is not tied into that. And I think that's kind of the underlying theme of all mental training is I'm in control and the outcome is whatever it is, and the process and how to do things. And, we picked themes and we picked things, and ours is journey this year with the word our bolded from it, and embrace
Oh,
it. And some of it is the mindset. Actually, FYI, it came from Florida. I was watching the current SEC football. I love watching other coaches coach. So if you're ever
yeah.
looking for things, those are awesome. I just love football too, but
Yeah.
they have a huge banner with journey, and hour is bolded right through it. And then I added
Awesome.
embrace the journey, and every moment matters. So mental
Mhm.
training, I think, keeps you in the moment. And I knew that with how much we were going to be on stage, the brand new school, this team, they're feeling that pressure. And then it becomes them. And they think that their play is them. And it
Yeah.
isn't. They are so much more. And mental training is that one piece where I think it brings you back to knowing it's okay to make mistakes, and they're about learning, and this process is fun and the journey is fun. And sometimes we get so caught up in the outcome. I'm extremely competitive. I coach hard. I know you
Mhm.
mentioned it a couple of times in the program. I think this allows me to coach hard, knowing
Yeah.
that I've spent the time building them with the skills so that they can, I'm not saying scream and yell, but I'll get after them. And it's intense. Like the game is intense. But at the end of the day, they know that they are more than that game, and they are so, beautifully made on this journey that we get to take together, that your program is so relatable because it is you talking and you have so much experience, and it is a different approach than sometimes always I'm sorry, I love all programs, but sometimes males just coming across and saying this is how you do it, and that's
Mhm.
great. But that connection that they can kind of have with their coach and you, and if you're a male coach, I think it does allow them to hear it from a female perspective at the same
Mhm.
time. But all of your skills are adaptable to every sport and every situation. And I just really, us that have to take our kids home, Tom included. I don't know if you took four girls home at the same time, but um,
Yeah.
I have to give them the skills because as parents, sometimes we just want to pick them up and protect them. But if they come home a little bit more intact, it has helped, I think, with the parent relationship dynamic of playing a high level sport and knowing that the skills are there for them to breathe. But by the time they get home, rather than just word vomit and be so emotional when they go home, and then now like, the parents don't know what to do. So I feel like I'm giving them the skills to handle that and segment it out in their lives too.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. Yeah. And that pressure is real when they're like, okay, you're the new team, you're the new school, you're the
Oh my God, everybody came. I'm like, oh my good God, like everybody
yeah.
is here. There's, 10,000 people, it felt like, but there wasn't. It just felt like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they were on the performance stage in the biggest way. So
Mhm. And no one's mentioned this yet, but it made me think of us as coaches too, that sometimes watching these training, like these videos with your girls and kind of going through it as a coach too helps. It's like, oh yeah, now I have some skills as a coach too, because I get flustered as a coach. I fall into this like tying my ego to the wins and the losses and how I feel about myself. And so a lot of it's good from just coaching mental game too. So um all right, let's go back to Tom. Tom, I already know how you're going to answer this, but I want everyone else to hear. What was your girls' like favorite part of the program, skill that they use the most? Let's talk about that.
I think that the snapback was definitely the skill they used the most, the one we probably spent the most time on.
Hmm.
There's times in games some makes a mistake, and like all coaches, we'll pull them off. And I think that when we did our end of year meetings and we got feedback from the girls, I asked specifically, what'd you think about, I pulled you out in this game, that game, 2 or 3 times. And, how do you think you reacted to it? How'd you feel about it? And, most of them thought the snapback routine was something that was extremely beneficial to them. So, I would say that was probably the skill that they picked up that, honestly, I never even thought of the snapback routine until this season and this program. So that was helpful for me to really watch players in practice and in games and know that if I took them off, is we would always take them off and give them a coachable moment, but
Yeah.
also allow them to reset themselves because everyone knows when they make a mistake. I mean, I know as a coach when I make a mistake, it's like, man, I should have called that timeout 2 seconds earlier, or I should have done this or I should have done that. I mean, we beat ourselves up as coaches, especially after a loss, for days sometimes. So,
Yeah.
you can imagine what these girls are doing when, they don't hit in our sport. It's like a free position. It's almost like a free throw in basketball. A lot of pressure. The clock stopped. Everyone's standing there and the ball's in one person's stick and they either score or they don't. And it's a lot of pressure on some of these girls. So they know when they make a good play or something that helps the team, and they know when they hurt the team. So I think the snapback was definitely the skill that they enjoyed the most. And it also opened up a lot of good interaction. And I mentioned this before, between like our juniors and our seniors and our freshmen, who this was totally new to, as our freshmen who, they haven't played in this type of environment. They haven't even seen this level of lacrosse. I mean, it's borderline college lacrosse is what we're competing in. And, for them to learn this skill as, 15-year-olds, it's going to help them for the next 8 years of their career. So, I think we really sold it as they're doing this in college and we're trying to get you guys to do this in high school because, we want you to compete at that level. And, almost 80% of our players go on to play college sports, if not lacrosse, and a lot of them are Division I players. So this is just a skill that we're giving them early in their career so we can get the most out of them. And I keep hearing the word confidence. I mean, in the end, it's boys, girls, no matter what the sport, it is truly about confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about what you did a little incentive for this is snapback, and this is not required or anything, but I thought it was cool what you did.
Yeah. So I was just sort of thinking about like the snapback routine. What would be the reward? As coaches, we all know, whether you're competing in a practice, a drill, whether there's a reward or a penalty at the end of it, it is, it's the best way to structure things. So I thought would be the best way to get them to pay attention to the snapback was to actually give them a snapback hat, which I don't have with me, but it is on our podcast.
Yes.
But so we bought a bunch of snapback hats, and after the first game we won, after we did the snapback routine, we picked out 3 or 4 girls who really exemplified, snapping back in that game. We did come back, I think, by 3 goals in the third quarter in that game. So we had some really great performances by different people. We swapped goalies in that game, and like a lot of stuff happened in a really big win. So we gave out the snapback hat, and the girls were really receptive of it. I'm actually out of them right now, and I got some on order. So it was great that we got to give out a bunch of them, and I thought that was a good way to do it. It's not the only way to do it, but when I did share that with some of my, my long-term friend women coaches, they thought it was great. And I sort of vetted that through them, and they were like, it's a great idea. And so that made me feel confident about doing it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. It's like, the whole emphasize what you want to see more of or celebrate what you want to see more of. And, like what a great way after a win like that. Like, yeah, there's a lot of stats we could probably recognize and a lot of other great things, but to recognize their ability to come back from a mistake, like that's huge because it'll lead to more of those outcomes too. So really great. Okay, Carlton, were there any specific skills or aspects of the program that stood out to you that were really helpful for your girls?
Same thing, that the snapback, bounce back in the snap. First videos you get to as a coach looking at it, and I think those videos are about 15 minutes long, and we stopped it along the way, had a discussion, and afterwards had a discussion, and equated that not just to sports, but also, school and life too. Like how do you, if you're anxious for a test or anxious because you have to give a presentation in the classroom, that breathing technique works for that as well. And same thing. So it wasn't just tried to go beyond the application in sports and apply it to life outside of the gym as well. And the girls, they picked up on that well. I think the other aspects, I probably need a little more time than I had in the summer because I didn't have additional time. So if I'm able to make use of that time before our practices, that'll be better suited for those. And it's funny, we just had our last practice of the summer and had a party afterwards. So I got the girls together. I gave them that PowerPoint slide and I said, okay, do you guys remember your breathing technique, right? So they all inhaled. And one thing that we hadn't talked about since they watched the videos, and they all said that you exhale like you're blowing on a cup of hot chocolate.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I thought that was funny. 2 months after we watched the videos and we talked about the different aspects, we never mentioned, exhaling like you're blowing on a cup of hot chocolate, but they all knew that and they all acted like they were holding the hot chocolate and blowing on it. So, they remembered those little parts of the videos that we had really been focusing on.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I love that. We'll talk in a second about how you kind of did that in the off season. I know you shared a little bit, but that's a big question that coaches have too. And how do you do it in the off season? But okay, Carrie, any specific things that stood out for your girls?
I didn't really know if they were completely bought in, to be like 100% honest. They just kind of do the stuff I like make them. They're pretty like good. They're like, okay, we'll give it a try type thing.
Yeah, they're compliant.
And yeah, they are. And then all of a sudden we kind of had a weird schedule thing at a tournament and it got thrown off and they're like, are we going to do our visualization? And I was like, oh, okay. That's we will probably have to just amend it a little bit. So we like did it on the sideline because we couldn't go into the hallway and just like gather ourselves. And I was like, oh, okay. So they're actually like using the words and wanting it. So they were it was part of our routine and it kind of sometimes it is hard. You come right after school and transition into practice. And I actually took a couple other strategies from you to try to get them going right away and then build it in a little bit. But that whole idea of being able to transition from one thing to another was really something your program helped with and giving ideas as to kind of how to reset them in that snapback routine, but also how to start practice because sometimes they carry a lot of stuff with them from school. Yeah. And what happened in the hallway, or you get a lot. So how to handle that. And then, oh my gosh, brain lost. Sitting at the Omaha Zoo, if anyone wants to know. Little warm out here. Yeah. But I did just really enjoy how it also helped me transition from one thing to the next. And I appreciated that from a coaching standpoint as well.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome.
But yeah, they're asking for it.
Yeah. Mine started to do that too. And they were like, I don't even know like what other, because at this point, my seniors for the past 2 years have been doing it for 4 years in a row. And so they're like, what do other people do before a game? How would you not like do a little visualization? Or like, it kind of just helps them, I don't know, reset and, you can tell them all they want, like, all you want, like, you should breathe or you should, journal a little bit and they're not going to do it unless you like build it in. So.
Yeah. And you have to model a little bit of it too. I did have some medical things happen with my own child and she got really nervous over blood draws and like super anxious. The brain is crazy and you have a lot of control over it and they don't know that yet. So we're teaching that in the classroom as well. But we actually listen to the music. We visualize getting the blood draw. We saw ourselves walk into the gym and I'm like, remember how we do this in volleyball? And she's like, yeah, but it doesn't work. Like when her anxiety was just like off the chart because she was so nervous. And that's what kids do before that big game. Or, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's getting a blood draw or serving the first serve in volleyball over the net. So the brain takes all of that as just fight or flight. And by lowering her, just anxiety and some of that pressure, she was just so out of it. And she does talk to me about that in basketball. She's like, Mom, sometimes I just see white. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that type of thing, we've used it. And she's like, okay, maybe this visualization stuff does work. Or maybe this breathing and listening to certain music and bringing your calm state back and knowing you can handle that not only works on the volleyball court, or basketball court or wherever track. She's also a state track runner. She's been using it, and sometimes she forgets. So they need reminders too.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. That's great. Okay. I have just a couple more questions as we wrap up. So a lot of you have shared some of the breakthroughs and things that have, I don't know, just that you've seen on your team as a result of this. But if, I'd love to give another opportunity to share if there's anything specific that you were like, wow, this was unexpected, or Tom, I know you guys made some history this season. So any like accomplishments or things that you want to call out that you thought mental training helped with? So Tom, I'll start with you.
Yeah. So, I think, like I've said a few times, we play in a really, really tough league. And I think 4 or 5 teams in our particular league are ranked in the top 20 in the country. We probably fall in somewhere a little bit behind that. So we have a handful of teams we just haven't beat as a school in multiple years. One team in particular, 20 years. There's another, it's been 5 or 6 years. So I'm not going to call it coincidence, but we started the training going into the iron of our schedule, and we won. I think the next week we won one of those games, which was pretty historic. And, the girls were really excited about it. And then we continued the training and we won another one of those games the following week. Now, so those were probably our biggest, like, tangible, I'd say, tangible accomplishments. But I do see a lot of individual accomplishments that we had in it. We did have one game we were losing 5-1 on the road. It was a game we probably should have won or been winning. I called the timeout. We got together, and I think the girls were looking at me like, he's going to yell at us. Like, what are we doing? And we just kind of got together and we did like a snapback routine. I just said, breathe. Right. And I look at that as like, and we end up winning the game in the end, like 10-11 or whatever it was. Or, we won late in the game. But I look at that as an accomplishment as a team and as a coach, and for all the girls, who performed or were on the bench and having excitement. So we had a lot of great accomplishments. But I'd say even more than those huge historic wins we had, Bre, we had this great bench this year. We had 37 girls on the team, which means that
oh my gosh,
20 of them don't play, right?
Oh wow.
How do you manage 20 really good lacrosse players sitting on the bench, who some of them are committed to playing college and or desire to. So but they ended up having an article written about them, about how great they were. They were called the bench mob. About how great they were and how much spirit they had, and they got interviewed individually, and like that all started after we started this mental snapback routine type stuff. And so I'd say it had these great accomplishments as a team. And we know great culture equals wins, and we all know that as coaches. And so out of this season, I'll take that the most out of anything is what we accomplished as a collective group of 37 girls, and having fun. And we didn't win a championship, but we accomplished a lot. We accomplished some really huge wins, but we also accomplished a lot together as a team. And I think this program had a lot to do with it. I think when we met with the girls individually at the end of the season, we asked them all about what they thought about the program, and most of them, and they thought it had a huge influence on how they perceived their role on the team, whether they played or they didn't play.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I both am like, I wouldn't wish that bench on anyone, like 20 people not playing. And also like, wow, your bench is deep and they bought into their roles, and, that's amazing too. I will say a note on that, and I don't know if you use this, but we've since added our like player impact plan into the program. So coaches that are listening, they're like, how do you buy into your roles? We have a little resource in there on how to help with that, how to communicate that to players, how to communicate that to parents. So, but yeah, that's amazing. And I would say, like, of course, like our program has had a lot of success as well. And you can't, I would say, I hate to say blame, you can't attribute it to all one thing, right? Like, but I say mental training didn't hurt us. And it showed up in the biggest, it usually shows up in those moments where you need it most. it's like, is this working? Is this doing anything? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, like they fall back on their skills in those big moments. So yeah, so good.
Yeah, and just to expand, something Carlton said earlier, in the, I'll say all high school, but these girls have so much pressure on them
Yeah.
outside of just the couple hours a day we have with them. And I think a lot of them, academically, whether it's social media, I think a lot of them applied this stuff to other parts of their life. And
Yeah.
certainly we encourage them to do that. Yeah, sports, it's great if it affects them in sports, but there's so many practices this year. I realized it was more than just sports affecting them. And
Yeah.
and I have a daughter on the team too, so you get kind of a pulse of what's going on. It's like, we're up to 3 a.m. doing homework, and we have 3 tests this week, and and that's a lot of the anxiety is driving that. And then when they make a mistake on the field, it's like compounding times 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it helps off the field too in a huge way.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's so true. Okay, Carlton, I know your season is around the corner. So anything you want to pull out as accomplishments or things that you noticed?
Yeah, so during the summer, a lot of kids work or they travel on vacation, so you get what you get when they show up.
Yep.
So we played a lot of games with 6 or 7 players that were all guards, small forwards. We didn't have a lot of height. We couldn't really get into like a half court game with other teams. So we played a very up tempo type offense, which meant that if the girls hung their head about a mistake, they missed the next play, and it really hurt us.
Yeah.
So a lot of full court press, so the emphasis on that was, hey, you got to snap back, you got to stay in the game. You can't get behind the play. You can't watch the next play, and most important play is the next play. And they did a good job. There were some games where we fell behind and we got in a hole because there were some girls, and it seems like if one does it, it's contagious. It's contagious both ways. But if you have one girl, particularly if she's one of the leaders, and she starts hanging her head and getting frustrated, then that's contagious on the team. So we had some bad games for that. A bad period. Sometimes it would take a timeout or timeout at the end of a period to get them back, get their mind back in the game. And sometimes it took, the time between games. We played a lot. Our schedule was a lot of games back to back. You get 10 minutes between games and you just sit down and you talk about it. And sometimes you'd see a big difference between the first game and the second game, just going over about how to recover from your mistakes or what you're doing that's not really a mistake. It's just part of the game, And
Yeah.
so I saw a big difference in that, and the girls could see a difference, between like when they knew that they were, kind of dropping their head and they were falling behind the play, to when they were just, snapping their fingers, recovering, getting right back into it, and playing hard. So it was good that they saw that. They could look at their performance and say, we're really bad in this game, or we're really bad in this half, or say that we all played together, we all kept our heads up tempo games that we have to play, and we did really well. So we had some good games, we had some bad games, we fell in a lot of big holes, deficits, and a lot of times we climbed our way back out of double digit deficits in the second half. But the success was that the girls could see the difference in how they respond to how they play, and how that equates to how they play in the next play. So even though it was the off season, that was big for us.
Yeah. And you're laying the foundation for your season to come too. So that's really cool that they already kind of have some of this. Yeah. Okay, Carrie, I know you've already shared a lot, but is there anything else that stands out that you're like, oh wow, this is like
I just think overall it gave us some common language to talk about things, and it brought it out there so that it isn't something that's like mystifying and this like weird thing. Like, am I the only one thinking that?
yes.
And that we talked about it as being very natural, and this is what life is, like recovering from your mistakes. I think I've failed more times than I've ever succeeded, but they have to be confident to do that. And I think just as I step back and I've, gone with my daughter, and I mean, sometimes there is a little bit of tough love that you have to give as a parent, but in terms of sports, I think it's helping build their character, build their confidence, demystifying this like brain that they're full of hormones with, and
Yeah.
it's okay. And when you learn about things like that, I think it puts you more at ease, and that you can continue to challenge and grow. And I just really have gotten into some neuroscience stuff, and yours is really strong in that. And it does talk a little bit about the science, which totally makes me excited every time your little 10-minute segment does that. So um, there's so much we're learning about the brain, and how powerful it is. And we know many of our conferences, whether it's Tom or Carl, I mean, we're all like sometimes this far apart, and other times we're this far apart. But
Mhm.
man, if we're this far apart and we're a little mentally tougher, that game gets better, and then we can challenge them. Or if we're this far apart, this might be that little edge we need on the team that isn't maybe doing that as strong. So I just think it's not one moment, it's just a bunch of little moments that really did matter. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah.
mhm.
Because I would say like physical or mental training can't replace physical training. Like
No,
you
no.
still have to be able to do the things that you need to do out there. But
Mhm.
yeah, when you're matching up head to head, especially if you're of similar ability, like this is going to be the thing. I mean, that's
Mhm.
what happened to us in the last state tournament. And it was like very clear
Mhm.
that the other team was like falling apart mentally. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like happening in real time. So, okay. Last little question before we wrap it up. Just logistics, because I know we have some coaches on that are like, like you, Carrie, like, I'm a teacher. I've got full day of prep. I don't have a lot of time. Like, how did you actually fit this into your seasons? How long did it take you? Did you do all of it, or did you just kind of piecemeal, or not piecemeal, but like do parts of it? So let's talk about that. Tom, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so we did piecemeal a little bit, like I said before, and so we also a few days a week have that slot too that was mentioned. So we might stop practice at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, which gives us daily time if we want to choose to have the girls get to the field house a little bit early. And that's what we decided to do on Mondays. On Mondays, we'd just kick off like a half hour early, and we would put the videos on. And that was a benefit we had, that they had an hour and a half or 2 hours after school to have time to maybe do some homework or get some food. So we slipped it in before practice on those what we call the mental Mondays. And we just kind of dedicated that day to do it. And if we didn't do it on Monday, if we had a game or something, we'd do it another day that week. But we did somewhat piecemeal. We focused specifically on the snapback and the visualization. And I thought that was good for what we had for this season. Because
Mhm.
unfortunately, our season's only like 2 months in the spring. It's the shortest of any other sport, I think. That
Yeah, that's super short.
anyway, it's extreme. I mean, I was texting with a coach last night complaining about how short our girls' season is. We play, 18 games in basically 2 months. So and most of our girls play 3 sports. So I don't see them much, or at least consistently, like Carlton was saying, until we start in February, mid-February. So yeah, so I would say, that's how we implemented it. There's probably 1,000 different ways to do it. We waited till the season. We waited till we were comfortable with where we're at as a team and had some failures. But I do think dedicating specific time is a really good way to do it and say, hey, we're going to do this every Friday after school, or we're going to do this every Monday, or because if we don't do it as coaches, if we don't dedicate that time, we probably are going to not do it. Right. So
Right. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's just too much going on, too many excuses to not do it. We got to work on this. We got to work on that. To really have time to sit down in the classroom and take a half hour out of these girls' time to do this. But if you don't do it, if you dedicate the time and you don't do it, the girls are all like, hey, why didn't we do it? Why are we
Yeah,
doing
they
it
are.
today? So now they're holding you accountable. So
Mhm.
I personally think that's the best way to do it. And it worked for us.
Yeah, love that. Okay, Carlton, how about you?
I've just done the bounce back and the snap part of it in the summer, and like I said, I introduced that to 3 girls in a lesson, and then when we did that in practice, they're the 3 that led the discussion on it,
Oh,
and they
cool.
kind of took a lot of pride in the fact that they did that. And same thing that the PowerPoint slide I sent, I gave it to
Mm.
uh, 3 girls I had a lesson with, prior to our last practice, and just to go over, just make sure it makes sense to them. So when we're talking about in practice, those three girls kind of led the conversation about it. So I'm not the one doing all the talking and leading the conversation. The girls were. So I'm going to do the same thing with the rest of the program as we get through that. Looking out to the season, I'm going to use the lessons that I'm giving in the fall here, and so I'm going to start doing the rest of the program then. So then when we get into the season, those girls will have had it, and they can help me lead the discussion or just lead the discussion themselves on it.
Cool. I love that. Yeah, you guys both did it a little bit differently. I will say that there is a plan in there. Like if you literally just want it plug and play, show up, do it, like you can follow the plan. I put my plan in there as well, like how I do it with my 13-week season or so. So yeah, but those are great ideas. I love also empowering your captains and your leaders to help with this. So Carrie, I think you did it more kind of as prescribed. So how did you make this all?
A little bit more. I did have to like kind of tweak and tailor a few things you don't have to go in the exact order that you have. And we like jumped around a little bit just for time. Sometimes it was a little overwhelming because I have a very large program. I have 7 teams, 3 ninth grade, 2 sophomore, 1 JV, and 1 varsity. And it was a combination of, at times we did some of the really important things together, and other times I like broke it out. Yeah, it's a lot. I got like 70 plus kids coming on Monday for these teams. But anyway, I did some large group, some smaller group, and then some coach led, so it was a little bit of a all over the place for the modeling of the program. But even if it maybe I made mistakes and things I want to improve for next year. But I think if you start with what you have listed at the very beginning, and even if like many of the coaches that have talked have started there, that's definitely the meat and potatoes, I would say. But the rest of it just continues to reinforce it in other ways. I was extremely drawn to your perfectionism stuff because volleyball players have a tendency, not all of them, but many of them, to be highly perfectionistic due to the fact our game is based on mistakes. Right. And the whole thing is. So especially I take that child home with me who's a high level, high performing perfectionist. She's got some of that from her mother as well. How do you handle that, and how do you process that? And some of them really, I got parent emails that were positive, like, oh my gosh, my daughter came home and said you did this at practice. This is so cool. Thanks for doing this. And sometimes you kind of get that parent email and you're a little, oh, okay, what are we getting in this one? And I actually got some really positive feedback that the kids didn't even know that their parents had just said, hey, I'm seeing some things, or she's saying some things that are really good. And those are my 9th graders and sophomores. It wasn't even the ones that I was like, okay, we got to do this. But I think it's a program, and just everything was very, very easy to follow, and you could tweak it any way you need to.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I totally feel you when you get a parent email and you're like, oh, it's something good. Okay, that's great. Wow. Well, thank you 3 so much for sharing so generously. Coaches that are listening, and those of you that are looking at investing in plug and play for your seasons, just know that we have that discount that is going on right now until Monday for $300 off. The license is good for 3 coaches. So Tom was mentioning that, it's like the volleyball coach, you, and then one other coach that has the license. Coach, yeah. Or you could give it to other people on your team. But if you need more licenses, it's $50 per coach. So it's, easy to add more seats into that as well. So yes. And we have a clickable link in there. Abby hopped on. She's our operations manager. So thank you, Abby, for jumping in there. We have a brochure you can share with your AD. I know ADs are swamped this time of year, but, if you want to get anything past your AD, we have a brochure we can put, and we do accept purchase orders. Those are kind of the main things that we get asked. So anyways, thank you, Tom, Carlton, and Carrie, so much for sharing so generously. I will let you all go and enjoy the time that, Carrie, at the zoo and all the things that you're doing as coaches.
With my children.
Yes. Oh, hello, children. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And coaches that are on, good luck to you this season. If you have any questions, you can feel free to shoot me an email. You know how to find me.
Thank you.
All
Bye, guys. Good luck.
See you later, everybody.
You.